Good evening. My name is Richard Riley, Chairperson, Litchfield Zoning Board. We're going to start the meeting this evening, October 14th, 2020, approximately 7:02 p.m. I'm going to begin with a call to order for everybody who's already sitting down. I'll start. Richard Riley.
John Devereaux.
Laura Gandia.
And we are all full members, so I don't need to officially appoint anybody here. So we do have 4 members present. That is sufficient for a quorum to have this meeting. On our agenda this evening is case number 2020-07. This is for the applicant name is Mr. Bruce Bacca, I believe, B-A-C-K-A. The address is listed as, the owner's address, is listed as 20A Northwest Boulevard, number 101 Nashville, New Hampshire, 03063. The property for the application is located at 26 Deerwood Drive, map 17, lot 11, Litchfield, New Hampshire, 03052.
Change the tool.
And
You can ask Bruce if 4 members is,
yeah, I just want to get my glasses so I can actually see more than just a blur. The applicant is seeking a variance of a side setback to add a porch on the west end of the house. We will get more details on that as we begin. So, Mr. Bacca, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, good. Thank you. First of all, I want to make sure I'm getting the pronunciation right. Is it Bacca or Bacca?
Either one's fine, thanks.
Okay, very good. Bruce would probably be easier, huh?
That would work great.
I'll be happy to go with that. So before we get started, I want to point out, as I said, we have a 4-member board this evening, a full quorum to hear your application would be 5 members. And as I said, I only have 4 here. That being said, you have the right to request a continuance based on the fact that we do not have all 5 members present. One reason, or I guess the main reason why you might want to do that is you're looking to get this variance request approved. In order to get that approved, you would need a minimum of 3 members to agree to approve that variance. And I guess the point is, with 5 members, your odds are slightly better than with only 4 members present. So you have that option. It's up to you. And I'm required to ask, would you like to proceed with 4, or would you like to continue until such time that we can try to come back with 5 members?
So this is an area where I have literally no experience and no insight. So perhaps off the record, you can give me some helpful guidance. I'm not thinking this is difficult or controversial. And so my perspective is that the 4 of you should go well enough, because I don't think it's a kind of thing where sort of stacking the deck or playing the odds is going to give me any advantage. I think you'll all be for it or you'll all be against it. Am I thinking about it the right way?
Yes and no. Typically, I can't tell you exactly how often we have a unanimous decision one way or another. I can say that we certainly have instances where we do not have unanimous decisions, and we have instances where we do have unanimous decisions. The objective is for you to get 3 votes. So it does come down to a confidence level in your request, and a confidence level in the information that you're able to provide through the written application and the verbal testimony that you're going to present to us tonight. If you think you may not have dotted your I's and crossed all your T's, then it might be in your best interest to wait. If you think you're in a good position and want to move forward, the best thing I can tell you is that the members here are all experienced. We've dealt with these type of cases a number of times. So I think you've got a good, you've got people who understand the process sitting here and are in a position to accurately judge, the data that you put forward and make a decision. That's the best I can tell you. Unless anybody else wants to say, Laura, do you want to add anything to that?
I'm sorry.
I wanted to see if my colleague Laura wanted to add anything to that. She does not.
Okay. I'll throw myself on the mercy of the court.
I like it. Thank you very much. So the record will reflect that Bruce has agreed to move forward with a 4-person board. All right. So with that being said, Bruce, what we need you to do, and we're following a process here that is outlined by statute. We need you to present the 5 criteria, which you've already outlined in the written application. You can either read verbatim, or you can certainly add to that as you go along, but we need that read into the record. And once you've completed that, we're probably going to have some questions for you. So we'll get into a back and forth dialogue to gain more information that we think we may need. At some point, we will have exhausted any of our questions, and you will probably have exhausted any of yours, at which time we will close public input. I'm sorry, we will ask for any additional public input, members that may have called into the same conference that may want to speak in favor or against or what have you. Once we've gotten through that phase, if there's none, we obviously move on. If there is, we hear what that is and deal with it. But once we've got through that phase, we'll do one more poll to see if there's any more discussion to be made while public session is open. If there's no further discussion, we will close public input. The board will deliberate right here in public. We'll make a decision. We'll vote on it, and you'll have your decision. Then we're going to issue a written decision to you, but you still you still have to wait 30 days from that decision before you could move forward. You would have 30 days to appeal the decision if you didn't agree with our decision, or you have to wait 30 days for anybody else to appeal our decision because they might not agree with it. So there will be that 30-day waiting period, regardless of how we decide. All right?
Got it.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you to go ahead and hopefully you've got your written application. If you can start with, item number 1, which reads, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because, and that it's up to you.
Yeah, I do have the app here, and I can presumably use slightly different words, but just so I won't be totally boring. But I think it's, as I said before, I think it's pretty straightforward if I'm understanding things well.
Would it be possible for him to describe his variance that he's specifically asking? You
mean the exact measurements?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So we're talking about a side setback. What is the distance on a side setback? Is it
4 feet, right?
4 feet or 6 feet?
So my understanding is that my structures need to be 20 feet away from my property line with any abutters.
Okay.
So one abutter is the street. Then I've got sort of, neighbors on 2 sides. And then the town owns a lot behind my house and my neighbors' houses. And the mission is to build a porch with a roof so that visitors and Amazon deliveries have a place to go in inclement weather. They don't have to stand out in the rain or the snow waiting for me to come to the door, or Amazon doesn't have to leave a package that could be damaged by the weather. Because the house as it stands is a classic colonial with a big front door and a walkway, but no covered entryway on any wall. And we looked at putting a porch on the front, but the way they've done the windows doesn't allow for a pitched roof. And there's a very small space, and then there's a stone wall and a big drop off. And so it's not clear that it would be safe from a construction standpoint to put it in front of the house. What I'm proposing is to put the porch on the garage side of the house. And as part of the, sort of consistent with things, we've got a design for this porch that makes it look like it was an intended part of the house, as opposed to this sort of crappy thing grafted on the garage. And it's that little design aspect, the widening of the end near the driveway that goes over that 20-foot setback by 3 or 4 feet. The measure is not exact, but it's no less than 3, no more than 4.
Okay.
For a running distance of about 6 feet. The rest of it is conforming because the house isn't set squarely on the lot. So as the house twists away from the lot, the porch then twists away from the lot and doesn't infringe. Is that a good enough description? Did that give you the sense of it?
I think that's a perfect description.
Okay.
So we'll move on. Back to the criteria number 1.
Yeah, so we're not contrary to the public interest because I'm not trying to change the use of the property, the character of the property. And in point of fact, one of the reasons that I'm here at the table is because I'm trying to maintain sort of the look of the property consistent with the neighborhood. So that, as I said, the thing that we're building looks like it was intended to be part of the house and not sort of this crappy porch grafted onto the garage. So I'm trying to make it look intentional. I'm trying to make it look like it's supposed to be there, and the designer builder thought that this would be a way to distinguish, because all the houses on the street are colonials, to distinguish my colonial house from all of my neighbors' colonial houses. So that would be my answer to the first question.
Okay. And then criteria number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because?
And so my sense of the spirit of the ordinance is it's to, keep the houses apart, to maintain distance between the properties. And so I think 2 things make this work well. One is that at the edge of my property and going into the nearest neighbor's property is a wooded space. And so that not only divides the properties, but it blocks the view. And because what I'm building is a porch and not like a sunroom, it's not like people are going to be sitting there peering through the woods at the neighbors. So I think we keep the spirit, which is intended to separate the houses, fully intact by what I'm doing here. And again, the encroachment is quite minor. It's just a few feet in one corner because the house is rotated on the lot. And so as we go through the rest of the porch, the remaining 3/4 of it, it does in fact meet the setback.
Excellent. Number 3, substantial justice is done because?
And so I would say that the variance would be just because the cost to me of addressing my inclement weather problem in any other way is substantial. And so this is a minor infringement, but it spares me from having to rebuild the front of my house or rebuild the front of my yard, and allows me to put the porch in its most sort of straightforward location, which is on the other side of the garage.
Okay, I think that covers that one too. We'll move on to number 4. The values of the surrounding properties are not diminished because?
So I'd say first and foremost, because this is actually intended to be a well-done addition to my house, which might increase the value of my house and might thereby lift up the values of my neighbors' houses. But at the very least, they're not going to be diminished because the intention is to do it well and make it look good and have eye appeal from the street. So nothing that we're doing here should hurt any of the neighbors.
Very good. And then lastly, and this one's probably one of the trickier ones because it's a 2-part question. Literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship because And what we're doing here is trying to address Part A for purpose of this paragraph. Unnecessary hardship means that owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, no fair, do I have this? No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purpose of the ordinance and the specific application of the property. So we want to speak to that. In other words, if we were to strictly apply this, can you help me with this one, please?
But yeah, I think first you just want to talk about how your property is unique from other properties in the area. And then once you have that uniqueness, then you want to tell us, given that uniqueness, why it would be unfair of us to apply this particular zoning regulation on your property.
Yep. So I struggled with the wording here because it's sort of legalese, and when other people talk to me about things like this, I say, it doesn't make sense because it's not supposed to. It doesn't, as written, seem to make sense to me. But I can answer the question in general, and then you can tell me if I've answered it in specific. And the thing that's different about my house relative to all the other houses is its placement on the lot. So the developer who developed these properties, for the most part, dropped the houses in the middle of the lot, which gives them plenty of breathing room one way or another. But because of the slope of my lot, it's closer to the neighbor whose lot line would be infringed than pretty much all of the other houses. And so that and the drop in the front, sloping lot, the drop in the front really constrain what can be done, to satisfy the need of having a place that's out of the weather. And so if you interpret the ordinance literally, then the hardship that's created is I either have to build something that looks crappy, which I think would be unfair to both me and my neighbors, or I have to do major surgery to either the house or the lot, which is the hardship.
That's the hardship.
So the special circumstance, I guess, is the position of the house and the lot. And the challenge is to address this issue of providing shelter for visitors and packages without having to sort of do major surgery on the house.
Okay, that's
Does that actually answer the question?
I think it does for the time being. It certainly allows us to continue. And the part B of that is, and you've already spoken to it, but we need to speak to it again. The proposed use would be a reasonable one. Just address that again for us, please, why it's a reasonable use.
Yeah, so the big picture here is to provide shelter for visitors and packages. And the manor is a porch. And I think having a porch on a house is a perfectly reasonable and appropriate thing, and consistent with like the condition and values of the community. One of the houses across the street has a porch. It's on the front of her house, but what we're doing here is consistent with what's going on, and I think a perfectly reasonable thing to do to any house.
Thank you very, very much. I think that has gotten us off to a great start. So at this point, you've addressed all the 5 criteria in your application. So I don't really have any direct questions. We've just to make clear on the measurements for the board, the proposed porch would encroach 4 feet into the required 20-foot setback, which would result in a 16-foot setback if this were to be approved. I do have a drawing. Again, you all had the opportunity to look at it online at our portal, but if anybody wants it, I only have the one copy here. I'd be happy to show you a drawing that Bruce has provided with his application, or anything else that may be in here. I also would like to point out before I bring this up that, and I'll ask Laura for some advice on this, I have 1, 2, 3, I have three letters of support, each from members of the public. I believe there are abutters. Should I read all three of these into the record?
I would when we open up public input.
When we open up public input? Okay. So I'm going to reserve these for when we open up public input. So at this point, I guess I'm going to invite the board to ask Bruce any questions that you may have about his application. And to avoid stepping over each other, just let me know who wants to go first. Anybody?
I'm good.
No further questions? See, you must have done a great job because we have no additional questions for you. All right, so having no further questions from the board, and Bruce, I suppose you don't have anything further to add before I open it up to public input?
Nope, nothing on my side.
Okay, so at this time, I would invite any members of the public that might be on this call this evening to please speak in favor, either for or against. And I believe we have someone who can confirm that we have no other members on this call.
Mr. Chair, there are no other participants on the call.
Okay. So having that was for the record, that was Mr. Brunel, who is providing technical support for us as we conduct these remote calls. So we do not have any public input. So at this point, I guess I would entertain a motion to close public input.
You're gonna read the letters?
Oh, boy, thank you. Sure. How about I split it up?
Sure.
You can have one.
I think they say the same thing.
They do.
So we can, if they all say the same, we can just say we have three letters.
Go ahead. Yep.
All right, so we have three letters, one from Reynolds, 24 Deerwood Drive. The other one from Cheryl Bogia, Boggia, 25 Deerwood Drive. And one from Kimberly LeVake, 28 Deerwood Drive. And they are all addressed to the town of Litchfield, Zoning Board of Adjustment, 2 Liberty Way, all dated July 20th, 2020. And they read as follows. I have spoken with Bruce Baca about the plans for his porch. I understand that a corner of his porch will encroach into the 20-foot setback towards 24 Deerwood Drive. I have no objection to this. Sincerely, and each of those letters are signed by their respective person.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I just want to confirm, Bruce, are one of these letters from the abutter who is actually right to the side where this encroachment is going to occur?
Yes, Reynolds is the abutter whose lot line the porch touches. The other two are the abutter on the other side of my house and the property across the street.
Thank you. I mean, we're rolling right along on this one.
Roll.
So I'll make a motion to close public input.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to close public input. We have a seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the motion to close public input passes 4-0. So Bruce, just for your information, this is where the board is now going to deliberate. We're not allowed to ask any questions, and you're really not allowed to give us any more information. So just give us a few moments to deliberate on this. And once we've done that, we'll make a motion and a decision on your case, all right? So
Sounds good, thanks.
Yeah, any discussion?
So the property, what's the address of the property?
The address of the property is 26 Deerwood Drive, map 17, lot 11.
Okay.
Yep. I do have a tax map if anybody needs to see it. I'm sure we could find it on there. You want to see it?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I just checked it out on Google Maps just to get a lay of the land.
I mean, I'll give you my take on it. I think he's presented the criteria and sufficiently enough for me to make a decision on this. And based on what I see, and in particular, where he describes his property, the location of the building on the property, and the grading of the land, and the construction of the house, I think that does lend itself to the uniqueness of the property and helps me to make a decision in favor on that criteria, and the rest that he submitted, I thought was pretty straightforward.
And I tend to agree. I do struggle a little bit with the fifth criteria. It's a big house. It's a like 3,400 square feet house. So he has all the, amenities. He has a 2-car garage. He has a house. He has a nice big sunroom in the back. So he has all of that. And then there's just this another added thing that he could put a porch in the front. So he absolutely could. And I see where there's it comes out and then it drops, but he could put a porch in the front.
Could. I agree. But I do accept his statement where the challenges that would exist should we require him to do, or should we deny this for him to try to put it on the front, I think does pose challenges. I also like the fact that we have the specific abutter that is most impacted coming out in support of this. That being said, that abutter could move, but at least for the time being, we have a letter of support from that abutter. We have some existing shrubs or trees that are providing not only some privacy, but in fact, even a little bit of safety just by having that stuff there. It provides a natural buffer. So those kind of things also lend, help me lean towards approving it.
And again, I'm not saying I'm not approving. I'm just bringing this in another thing. If you look at the porch that he wants to add on, it fits going down the side of the house, but it's the very front of that porch structure that he's kicking out. So if you look at his house, it would be able to fit if he had the same dimensions going from the back of the house to the front. But he doesn't. He has it going back and then he cuts it out in the front. I'm sure that's probably just to make it look better, but he could have it the same way that he has it going towards the back of the house.
Yeah, so I think what you're pointing out is that gazebo type.
Exactly, in the front.
Yeah, which I actually have a similar situation at a home in Maine. So,
because the rest of it fits.
Yep,
except
I
for
understand.
this, design criteria that he's now encroaching into the side setback for design purposes.
Yeah. I think where he spoke about how it would still be aesthetically pleasing, and I think, what he's proposing to do there is towards the front of the house,
But
which is a good spot for that to happen when you think about, the intended use. So I see that too. I guess I just get into the reasonableness here versus, the hardship that will be created. So I definitely appreciate the feedback, and I think we're just trying to deliberate here so we make sure we make it, get all views on the table so we make a good decision.
just food for thought.
I like it. So do we have any further questions, deliberation? Anybody willing to make a motion on either to approve or to deny? Shall I? Okay. I would like to make a motion to, for case 2020-07, for Mr. Bruce Baca at 26 Deerwood Drive, map 17, lot 11, to grant the variance from section 310 to allow a porch addition as shown on the drawing provided with the application, the construction of which would encroach 4 feet into the required side setback of 20 feet. I think that's my motion. So do I have anybody who?
I will second.
I have a seconded from Laura. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor for the motion, say aye.
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 All those opposed? So your variance has been granted on a voice roll call vote of 4-0. So as I explained earlier, you've got a 30-day waiting period, at which point you'd be able to work with the building department to get whatever permits might be necessary to move forward with your project. When I send out our decision on this particular case, you'll get a copy, and the building department also gets a copy, as well as the planning board and our town administrator, Troy Brown. So people should have, and a copy of the decision will be placed on your file and kept in the zoning board's file cabinets here at Town Hall. So you should have everything lined up for you in 30 days, as long as we don't have any appeals submitted from the public between now and then.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and good luck with your project.
Thanks. It's a next year project for sure.
All right. Okay, so we're all set. If you want to drop, I think you're all set. I just have one last item for the board here before we adjourn.
Okay.
We have on our schedule to nominate a chairperson and vice chairperson. I know you, John, and I have been speaking about possibly transferring some responsibilities over to you. I'm more than comfortable with keeping the chairperson if that's what the board might choose. I won't speak for Laura. I'll let her speak for herself before we take a vote.
I would be comfortable keeping the vice chair position
Okay.
as well.
That being said, if anybody wants to step up, I'm pretty sure both of us would be more than happy to help anybody who wants to step into the shoes to be successful. So that's that. I'll ask for nominations.
I'd like
And
to
it
nominate-
probably shouldn't come from either one of us. Since
I'd
we're,
like to nominate Rick as chair and Laura as the vice chair.
And I will second that.
can we do this with we can
Yeah,
vote
we
for
can.
ourselves, right?
I will abstain from voting for me.
Okay, so you could vote for my position, and then I'll abstain from that, and then I could vote
Yes.
to allow you, and you'll abstain from that.
Right, so if you want to do them separate,
So we need separate
Okay,
motions.
so first we'll vote for chair. I'll vote for Rick.
I will
okay.
second that motion.
Okay, so we have a vote to nominate myself as chairperson for another term, and seconded by Laura. I'm going to abstain, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries by a vote of 3-0-1. I'm going to go ahead and make the second motion since I can do that if I'm, yeah, I can do that. I'm going to make a motion to nominate Laura as vice chairperson for another term.
I'll second.
I have a seconded from John. So
I'll be abstaining.
Laura is going to abstain, so I'll ask for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. A motion carries 3-0-1 again. So now we have a chair and vice chair for another term. Yippee. So I think that covered that. I know that covers any business that I had on the agenda. Is there any other business that members of the board would like to
Just a
discuss?
question, is this term go to next October or is it switch in March?
I believe our bylaws read that we should be making nominations in April and voting in March timeframe. But I think there's also provisions that allow this to just continue month to month without those nominations in place. So that's how I was able to continue in my capacity.
Gotcha. Very
So
good.
it's a 1-year term, and you think of it as, end of Q1 is when we should be looking at
That's what I thought,
re-upping.
because we're kind of late in voting, so we should really look at maybe next October.
We are, and we were a little bit challenged with the remote meetings and get
Yeah, that
ourselves
was fun.
grounded on that.
This is
So-
fun.
Yeah, I do understand that going forward, we can continue to meet like this. We can also have a hybrid where somebody you could call in if you wanted to. We have 2 or 3 people here. We still can create a quorum whether you're here or online. I will say that I have felt a little challenged being totally remote because I just didn't feel as though we were able to discuss the way we were able to discuss tonight. It just feels more conducive. It felt like I was running the show too much on the remote calls.
I know what
Okay.
you- It's kind of like you're the MC, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if I was really doing that or if it was just a natural result of that format. But in either case, I'm probably going to continue to show up as long as there's somebody else who's willing to show up. But we'll do whatever is best in terms of all of our health too.
Sounds good.
So I think we're done with any agenda items.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:36.
I second.
Motion to adjourn at 7:36, seconded by John. All those in favor say aye.
I.
Aye.
Aye. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.